All right. Thanks everyone for joining this week's meeting of SIG Windows. This is October the 2nd. So there's a couple things on the agenda. First one on the list is we've got how do you say your name? Is it Aish?
Aish.
Aish here from SIG Release to talk about 1.13. So would you like to go ahead?
Yep. Hi, everybody. This is Aish. And I wanted to take some time to quickly introduce myself. I will be the 1.13 Kubernetes release lead. The release officially kicked off yesterday, and it is due, and it goes through the first week of December. For those of you who haven't seen, I sent out a kickoff email yesterday on Kubernetes Dev, which basically outlines the schedule and some process changes for 113 itself. The main points that I wanted to drive home, and I'm doing this with every SIG, is the duration of the release itself. It's a super short one, which is just about 10 weeks. This is factoring in the 2 KubeCons. We have code freeze around the first KubeCon, and then we're trying to release before the second KubeCon, so that the last 2 weeks of December are practically not release friendly in any way. So I just wanted to call your attention to the duration of the release, and hence request you guys to factor that in while planning your enhancements load for 113. So we are calling all the features enhancements in this release, and enhancement can be in feature work or a bug fix. Though we are not formalizing this, but the release team is trying to aim for more of a stability release. What I mean by this is we're trying to kind of be a little, restrict the income of new big alpha features, something that's completely new into the release, but rather encourage the SIGs and enhancement owners to focus on either landing features that were deferred as part of 112 or focus on any stability fixes. This could be bug fixes or long-standing test issues or increasing test coverage, anything that could help increase stability of the features rather than taking on anything that is large scoped and risky for such a short release. Again, our official feature collection starts next Monday, and Kendrick, who is on the call, is our features lead. So he will touch base with you guys via Slack or the issues itself to assess what kind of load is coming in. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to drive home that particular time constraint when you guys are planning for features.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions around this?
That's just a general comment. I mean, our goal for 12, which we didn't meet for 12, but so we're trying again for 13, is we're basically trying to focus on Windows stability, and in particular bring the conformance tests up. And so, I want to make sure that that we're factoring that in, and we basically want to defer most new feature work and just focus on things that are blocking those conformance tests. So like we already have a number of PRs in, which SIG testing might consider them features because they're new tests, but our goal here is to make sure that things are stable so that customers will be able to count on getting Kubernetes for Windows deployed, and then we'll start doing Windows specific features again, probably for around 14. So like that's kind of the theme we're looking at here right now. So.
One quick question. So those tests will show up in the conformance. You're going to have it in the conformance dashboard. Is that right?
Well, we're pushing them into test grid initially, and the tests that we're running are a subset of the node conformance. There are some that I need to take through the testing commons because they're marked conformance, but they contain OS specific checks. And so that's kind of a separate organizational issue that I'll need to work through with them. But all the things that we expect to work and be at parity between the two are passing, with the exception of a couple right now. The main problem that we're working on right now is driving out some test flakes which are due to stability. So I do expect there to be several PRs coming through relating to that. but the feature changes should be relatively minor. There was one that was deferred from 12 that's currently under review with SIG networking. And that's because the network stats on Windows are a little bit different than they are on Linux.
Is
And
that
so,
547? Yeah.
Yeah, I lost track of that window.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. Yeah, we are actively tracking the ones that are in the Kubernetes features repo, and currently we see one feature from Windows there.
Yeah, and so like 116 is the tracking one for getting things to be marked as stable. The 547 that you listed in there was proposing to change the resource allocations to match what's in the OCI spec for Windows. But it was either 10 or 11, we actually made a change so that way resource limits already work the same way they do on Linux. So you can specify memory and CPU, and those are implemented. And so I personally, I don't think we need 547 for 1.13. But has anybody else taken a closer look at that? Okay, I'll drop down the Slack channel and see if anyone else has other comments there. But I mean, I think the main thing is getting that deferred network PR merge and then focusing on the stability fixes that are coming in.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Kendrick, is there anything you wanted to add, or are we good here?
No, that's great. It's good to know that 547 will be deferred again. So I think you guys know what you're doing in regards of nailing down the conformance tests and getting Windows containers stable. So looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. The other thing I was looking at with 547 is I think for it to really have the best benefit, it's also going to need, we need to work through the end-to-end scenario on that, because if we want to change the resource field that we're using, I think that may also have some impact to the scheduler. And so unless we're failing conformance, I don't think we want to take it this release. So.
Cool. Thanks a lot. That's all we had. Thanks for your time, and looking forward to a great 113. I'm going to drop off the call now, but thanks, guys. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining. Okay. So I guess the next topic we had was relating to the networking plugins. Over the last, I guess, week and a half, we've had some John Howard, who's been mostly working on the Docker stuff, took a look at the network stuff, and he's got a few PRs in the works. And so we think we've fixed one of the main concurrency problems we had with locking around the IPAM database, and that was causing a lot of test failures where sometimes pods were not being scheduled. It's not the only problem we need to fix, but it seems to be a step in the right direction. And so those are not happening in the Kube repo. They're happening over in the CNI repo. And let me see. Oh, I don't have anybody else from networking there. But Adelina's got those rolling out in her test passes, so hopefully we're going to see some improvements there. But the developers at Microsoft are focusing on stabilizing that plugin, and it looks like Peter's reviewing and tracking that as well. So if you've got any feedback on that, please be sure to share it. Did you have any questions now?
No questions. I was just taking a look at these for the first time. I'm taking a closer look right now at CNI options and figuring out I think I'll be using the WinBridge CNI mostly.
Okay.
Recently committed to the container networking repo.
Yeah. And I think this Azure CNI plugin can actually be potentially re-platformed on top of that, because my understanding was that those two plugins were supposed to basically wrap up all the things that needed to call the Windows networking code for being able to do things like add the endpoints and create the namespaces. And then I think that the Azure CNI stuff could be deferred to be a IPAM plugin, but I may be misunderstanding how that stack works there.
Yeah, it's also my sort of high level impression. I haven't actually looked at the code for the Azure specific plugin, so I don't know for sure.
Okay. And then the other, yeah, so anyway, yeah, so we had a locking issue there, but I think it was on the IPAM database. The other stability issue that I forgot to paste in there, which I covered from last week, is there was a bug check that that some people were hitting under load, and we now have a fix in testing for that. And let me see if I could find more details on that, because I think it was a DPC timeout. Oh, I don't have the exact error code there, but basically it's a crash, and if you analyze the dump, it says the fault is in VFP ext.sys. So if you hit that one, you can open a support case with Microsoft or Azure support, and they'll give you the fix. But basically, since it's not part of the monthly update roll up yet, you have to ask for it. It's just, unfortunately, that's the process they have. They don't post private fixes publicly before they're fully tested, but they will let people get them. Yeah, that's the issue there.
What is VFP ext.sys?
It's basically, VFP stands for Virtual Filtering Platform, but it's basically what's used to configure the virtual network interfaces for containers. And it also has some functionality. This is probably an oversimplification, but it also has some functionality sort of like IP tables. So if you want to be able to set, layer 4 rules on and ingress and egress and things like that, you need to be able to you do it through that driver, and then it will handle some of those for you. So I think those are the main updates that I had. Did anybody have other topics for today? So Nick, have you had a chance to look at the CSI stuff? Is there anything you want to discuss around that?
I haven't had a chance to look at it. I know that Sabode has started to look at it.
Okay.
So that's yeah, that's it.
Okay. Do you think we could look at that in more detail next week? Maybe spend like 15 minutes on it so we can go through and recommend some changes?
I mean, really, I have to do a little bit more reading. I've skimmed it, but that's all that I've done so far. And on brief glance, it looked pretty sane, but I haven't done a full read through.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll talk to Sabode as well, but I'll see if this time works next week, because I think it'd be easiest if we can just do it in this meeting rather than trying to schedule a separate time that works for everybody. Okay. Anything else? Any other topics? As far as Windows Server 2019 goes, I'm still waiting for some more details on availability there. So I don't have anything to share on that.
Were there any sessions from Ignite that would be particularly relevant for the group that we should check out?
So I had a short session that was sort of covering Windows container orchestration all up. And so I had some Kubernetes demos in there. Probably the most interesting takeaway for this group would be that I was able to get service catalog working. One of the things, so I think maybe we should talk about that a little more next week if others are interested in that. But one of the interesting problems I ran into is that as I was using a bunch of Helm charts to do things like, install the service catalog plugin for Kubernetes, because I had a mix of Windows and Linux nodes in the cluster, some of those Helm charts were not setting a node selector. And so if a pod inadvertently got scheduled on a Windows node, it would just fail to start. And so I think sort of as we move from, standing up a cluster to, actually, going into day one and day two operations, I think we're going to find that we probably need to do some pushes to clean up things in like the Helm chart repo to make sure that node selectors are used where Linux only apps are being deployed.
Hey,
Windows.
Patrick,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but the folks from Ticketmaster flagged that out a few months ago. So that's going to be a big issue. So definitely that's something that you should consider.
Okay. And then the other sessions were covering, Windows Container Basics. So, for someone getting started with Windows containers, it's worth looking at them. But, there was no particularly big announcements relating to Kubernetes there. It was more of a status update for me. So, oh, here's the cat. Okay. I think that's all I had. Anything else? Okay, I guess I'll talk to everyone next week, and he says hi.
Cool. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.